Taking a look over at the New York City skyline because that is where our next story takes us. Former Mexican drug cartel kingpin Ismael Zambada, also known as El Mayo, will spend the rest of his life in prison after pleading guilty Monday to U.S. drug trafficking charges and saying he was sorry for helping flood the U.S. with cocaine, heroin, and other illicit substances, as well as for fueling the deadly violence in Mexico. Joining us now to discuss this and really how big of a deal it is Ilan Katz. He is a criminal defense attorney. Ilan, good to see you.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning to you as well. So, I mean, let's just start with that. How big of a deal is that? El Mayo pleading guilty, but he's been in U.S. custody for quite some time.
Well, it's a very, very big deal. You have to take into consideration that he had never spent a night in jail in his life until he was kidnapped by the Guzmans, by El Chapo's sons. So the fact that he has been detained and he pled guilty is a huge win for the United States.
So I guess that leads me to the next question. Take us back, though, and really everything that El Mayo was accused of and ultimately charged with. Really, what is kind of that rap sheet?
Well, he pleaded guilty to two charges based on two indictments. One of them was in Texas, and the other one was in New York. It's pleaded guilty to the smuggling charge and another conspiracy charge, a racketeering charge. But the point is that you have to take into consideration that El Mayo was kidnapped. He was taken by the Chapitos, the El Chapo's children, to the United States. So this is different than other people who have been taken, extradited, or deported to the United States, where most of them aren't charged with the death penalty. El Mayo could have been charged with the death penalty, and I think that was a big motivation in pleading guilty, avoiding the death penalty, and of course, trying to get a better deal and not being in a maximum security prison where he will spend the rest of his life.
I do want to put up a post here from Attorney General Pam Bondi. She held a news conference just yesterday talking about this entire situation. She says this: El Chapo's Sinaloa cartel co-founder Ismael El Mayo Zambada Garcia has pled guilty to operating a continuing criminal enterprise and to RICO charges, saying, quote, his guilty plea brings us one step closer to achieving our goal, the elimination of the drug cartels and the transnational criminal organizations throughout this world. Well, we try to put together the connections, especially because the Trump administration is trying to really crack down on the flow of these illicit substances to the U.S. How much of that could be attributed to that specific cartel that El Mayo was part of?
I think most. El Mayo confessed yesterday to smuggling more than 1.5 million kilos of cocaine throughout his life. So you can imagine the importance of El Mayo in the drug trade. I think we are probably talking about the most successful drug kingpin of all time. So, I mean, this is the biggest enterprise in the history of Mexican criminal organizations. He had been active since he was 19, as he said, when he started planting marijuana in Sinaloa, and he was active until last year when he turned, I think, 74. He's 75 now. So it's huge. I mean, this is a complete game changer. It makes sense for him to plead guilty because of many, many different things. And it also makes sense for the United States to accept a guilty plea just to avoid the cost of a trial and the appeals that will be moving forward. So it seems like El Mayo had few options, whereas going to trial would have been useless. He would have gotten a much harsher or conditions, or at least he could have faced the death penalty. And the situation now, and he would have absolutely gotten a guilty verdict. So it does make a lot of sense for him to plead guilty.
Just yesterday during that same news conference, one of the agents that was present said something something to the effect of, the head has been decapitated, meaning the lead of that particular organization. But when it comes to arresting, detaining, and ultimately prosecuting these drug lords, so to speak, how much of an effect does that really have on the cartel?
Well, it's huge. It's very, very important because management is very hard to replace. Good management is very hard to replace within a criminal organization. So when you take out the heads who have the experience, who have the connections, who have all of this groundwork laid out through years and years and years, when you eliminate management, top management, the executives in the criminal enterprise, they become very, very hard to replace with very good substitutions, which is why you have to consider that the detainment of him is a game changer. The big winners here, of course, which hasn't been mentioned in the news lately, but the big winners are El Chapo's sons, who kidnapped him and took him to the States. They are looking for a different a different situation now. They delivered the greatest or the most important drug dealer, their father's partner, and they will probably be getting a wonderful deal where they will have, very short prison terms or short prison terms, and will be able to keep some of their money. I do see them as the big winners in this equation.
And we'll have to see really what comes out of that, especially with their involvement in this whole situation. Ilan, just one more question for you. Any other big cartel case, perhaps that you're watching very closely and that you have your eye on, maybe?
Well, all of the deportations that we've seen during Claudia Sheinbaum's presidency, they brought in last week or 2 weeks ago, they brought in about 20 other people. Most of the people that they brought into the United States were major players in the drug trade. Even though they had been detained, there is a possibility that they had been active within the criminal organizations from within prison in Mexico. So we will see, or we have seen, that the federal government in Mexico has been very effective in working with the United States government to eliminate the drug trade. So I truly believe that we will see a much better position to combat fentanyl and cocaine trafficking in the United States and in Mexico, and to see the decline of violence through all of these deportations and detainments.
Criminal defense attorney Ilan Katz, we do appreciate your time here at Live Now from Fox as we are following that breaking news story from just yesterday. And we hope to check in with you soon as we see more of these deportations, as you mentioned, and more of these criminals that are involved in these cartel organizations be brought to justice. So thank you.
Thank you.